Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we're actually seeing some kind of bad news today, because if you guys saw our video earlier on today, we're actually now seeing some really bad news when it comes to PlayStation in terms of the future projections on their consoles, in terms of what they're kind of expecting in terms of profit when it comes to like selling games. We also saw some really sad news in terms of like the future of PlayStation 5 games that aren't necessarily going to be like just not a lot of good games coming out these next few months. So we saw that kind of also get reciprocated today as of the stock market, where right now, after hours, the PlayStation Sony stock has gone down. Throughout the day was pretty much a complete nosedive, and everything is just not looking so good. Now, there's also been comparison to as well for the Microsoft stock, which has actually been doing very well. Although, if you guys kind of know, Microsoft is more so making money on other things such as like web hosting and other various sources, which we could talk about throughout this video. But at the same exact time, things are getting a little bit sketchy when it comes to PlayStation and Sony as a whole. So we're gonna go talk about that all throughout this video. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. Happy Valentine's Day to you all. We have the Twitter and Twitch room down below if you guys would like to go and follow. And of course, as well, sign up for Webull Deposit any bit of like money. You get a bunch of free stocks for free with the affiliate link down below. And you can basically go make back all your Sony losses with that one. We've had a lot of peaks doing it. You get like 50, $100 just for doing it for free. So if you guys want to, link down below. So, as I've talked about, we kind of had some pretty iffy news today when it comes to the projections and the future of the PlayStation and the console and everything else. I am not the biggest fan of this. Mainly because, well, if you have any Sony stock, which I find enough actually do not have any Sony stock or Microsoft, but I don't know why I don't, because I do so much research on these topics and I talk about these videos. I probably would be pretty good knowing like when to buy, when to sell, when to trade. But either way, this is probably would have been one of those days where I would have sold. So very quick to let you guys know, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more deep dive on why. Basically, Sony stock as of today, if you guys want to go and see even like the past like 5-day, typically when you see stocks, there's always an ebb and flow. You have a little bit of an up, you have a little bit of a down, like you have some good news, we have some good projections, you have some bad news, or whatever it might be. And right this second, Sony's kind of in that, hey, be careful, it might be a little bit of a risky buy, at least for this upcoming quarter. So the stock was doing pretty good. Maybe I'll even put this on the 1 month cycle for it. I would around almost $100, which is pretty good. A little bit of a dip down not too long ago, but there's also a bit of a market general kind of going down a few days ago as well, like around this range. And then a little bit of normal back up, kind of same how my normal stocks are. But you guys can kind of see this pretty big, just almost straight line down, not that straight, but if you guys, I mean, this looks a little bit more on the straight line down. Now, if you guys are used to stocks in the market, there's always volatility. I have like crypto, I have Bitcoin, stuff like that. So for me, I'm used to 20% movements up and down on a constant basis. It's just risk is how it works. But if you guys missed it yesterday, and also just kind of general talking, PlayStation finally projected that PlayStation sales might be slowing down. Now, we might want to do a little bit more of a deeper dive into it, but right now it's essentially they're saying, hey, most people who kind of wanted a PlayStation have gotten their PlayStation. And that doesn't mean that new people are not going to be buying it, or like, you know, people grow up, like they get 13 and their parents are like, oh, hey, let's go get this console you've wanted for a while. Or at the same time, when the next big game comes out or Final Fantasy might drive some sales, like it's just like normal console stuff. Like you're going to go get one, people are going to move from the PS4, like it makes sense. But when it comes to projections and how money is going to be made, there's two big things we talked about in a prior video. And that's why the stock is kind of falling. It's kind of in a free fall right now, which is not good. Like I would say a 6% drop, getting close to 7% drop is actually pretty big when it comes to most stock markets. Because don't forget, you only have 100% of a company. 7% in a 1-day cycle is kind of a lot. Like that's like at this point, billions of dollars of market cap being lost in a various cycle. Now, once again, it's kind of ebb and flow. Like, so that doesn't mean that like the Sony stock's not going to come up in the future as well. But when you're competing with Microsoft's been kind of getting some pretty big runs these past, well, just in general. You look at the 6-month chart over here, and Microsoft has become one of the biggest companies in the entire planet. I think it's number 1 as of the second, with, I believe, Apple on number 2, and then also Nvidia right afterwards. But as you guys can kind of look through most of the stock stuff, Apple's been kind of faltering down a little bit. As of per recent, we've been seeing bad projections on the Apple, like iPhone, etc. But Microsoft has actually gone up 27% in these past 6 months. If you guys kind of look through the actual same chart over here for the past 6 months for Sony, they've had a bit of an up, sure, like they've been doing all right, but then we see this, because it kind of seems like the consistency is kind of not there. There's like a lot of shorts going down. People aren't necessarily like, you know, they're scared. Like they're scared about the market itself, especially for PlayStation, even with all the good PlayStation sales news. Now, if you look at Microsoft, it's been, you know, a little dips and downs, just general stock market, but the chart's overall looking like a bigger, longer growth. Now, once again, Microsoft made a lot of money on like Windows and hosting, and PlayStation's more on hardware, and they have like, you know, movies, TVs, music, or whatever. So it's not all one-to-one, but it does kind of show that right now, it's just not been doing good. Like look in this past month or so, it's been a little bit on the gruesome side when it comes to Sony stock. Now, we've kind of been seeing even news on like Yahoo Finance and other various things saying that Sony dives most in 2 years now after cutting the PlayStation 5 sales outlook. And that's been kind of the one big win, I'd say, for PlayStation recently. They've been having a lot of good sales. They're winning on console sales as a whole. Like they're just just doing better in terms of Xbox. But don't forget, Microsoft is like the big daddy. Microsoft's the one that can basically go and justify dropping $70 billion on Activision, and at the same exact time, they're going to be making profit regardless. They're going to be making money on PlayStation from Call of Duty sales, or Overwatch sales, or loot boxes, or microtransactions. They got that Game Pass going on, so they got that subscription money. Now, PlayStation has that to a PlayStation Plus, but even the PlayStation Plus has been kind of faltering a little bit. Now, it has been at an insane growth, and if you guys know stock or shareholders or kind of capitalism as a whole, you always want to be growing. You don't want to be shorting, you want to be growing over time. And right now, it does kind of seem like PlayStation's had a little bit of issues because they did have a lot of negative news. As I mentioned in the prior video, they're not having as many brand new games coming out. And I think that's a big key for PlayStation's profit and revenue. They want to get software. They want to sell games. They want to sell the God of Wars and Spider-Mans, and they're not. And same with hardware. If most people already have their hardware and they're still going to have new people buying for sure, it's not the biggest deal. So Sony Corp has plunged in the most in its 2 years after slashing projections for sales of the aging PlayStation 5 gaming console, underscoring a global electronics slump, and it's kind of been affecting the overall tech market. We're out of the pandemic boom, and now people are seeing the reality, and projections just can't keep growing forever. The shares fell as much as 8.4% in early Tokyo trading, the biggest intraday fall since February of 2022. On Wednesday, Sony trimmed its revenue forecast after sales of its flagship PS5 in the December quarter came in roughly 1 million units lower than analyst estimates. So right now, people are not buying the PlayStation, it seems like. And at 8.2 million consoles, the company now expects to sell 21 million units for the fiscal year, down from the previous forecast of 25 million. So obviously the stock is going to go and fall, because people are expecting another 4 million sales, and that's, don't forget, $500 per console, and that extra 4 million people would also be buying games and getting stuff on Well. So on top of that, software sales would be going down, hardware sales would be going down, and PlayStation actually is a bigger percentage of revenue and kind of a bigger portion of Sony than Xbox is for Microsoft. And it does kind of seem like Microsoft's making a smart play, switching more to publisher and letting other big game companies, such as any game you'd buy on Game Pass, to take the brunt of the development hint, and you kind of go and subsidize it to kind of like anyone who doesn't want to gamble on their game. Because we've seen some games that are like you spend $100 million on, they make 20 million back, and the game instantly like just dies in terms of player base. It's not good. Like, it's not what you want to do. So if you have a company that's offering you $25 million and then you also get the bonus sales too, you're probably going to take that to subsidize the losses or development costs when it comes to bigger games, which is kind of like, I think, the purpose of Game Pass in the gaming market. But when it comes to PlayStation, they do have PS Plus, which people go and get. But even right now, they had a huge PS Plus price increase. I'm sure most of you guys remember that. Hopefully you guys do, because that was rough. And a lot of folks actually went and canceled their PlayStation Plus subscriptions because you just can't afford it. Like, the economy is on the rougher side, and I don't mind inflation or things cost a little bit more, but a lot of people are kind of going down that. So it would also make the PlayStation numbers, although maybe make you have a higher profit, also lower the actual acquisition rate, and as well also lower the amount of people having it. Part 2 is with less hardware sales, means you're making less money on per console. You're not making money on those random disk drives, etc. When it comes to other various things like the PS5 Pro, we don't know if it's going to happen or not, and it seems like it might be a little bit on the more unlikely side in passing, because they didn't have a chance to go and bolster up like their future expectancies. If they had a PS5 Pro, they'd probably be expecting people to buy stuff on that, and they didn't as well, and it kind of seems rough because the stock has been going down. The story, Sony now plans to partially spin off its financial services unit in October 2025 as part of a plan to focus on the growth of businesses such as entertainment and image sponsors. The move will reverse a $3.7 billion take-private deal concluded in 2020, and it plans to distribute just over 80% of its shares in its financial unit, known as FFGI, to Sony shareholders through dividends in kind, and to hold slightly less than 20% after the spinoff, which is okay maybe for a one-time dividend, but you also want to have new companies making new stuff. But on Thursday, investors zeroed out in a lackluster outlook. Rivals Nintendo Co. and Microsoft are expected to launch new hardware in time for the holiday season, which I'm not really sure where Microsoft's getting that. There was some rumors for the mid-tier refresher, but I think that's more of Nintendo, not Microsoft. If the platform has already peaked in growth, then the outlook could be much grimmer than what we even had in terms of the game's business, Amir Anvarzad, a strategist with Asymmetric Advisors, wrote in a research note. We have long feared that the deep-pocketed Microsoft and a subscription service called Game Pass could actually prove highly disruptive to Sony, and it does seem like it has been. Taking away Call of Duty goes and takes away a lot of money too as well. The Japanese firm now expects $81 billion in sales this fiscal year, down from around, let's say around 90 billion or so, or at a revenue of around 3.7 trillion yen, and operating profits around $500 billion in the quarter ended in December, in line with the average analyst. Looking ahead, though, they are saying they're now entering to the later cycle of the PlayStation itself, which is crazy because I've kind of been here from start to finish. As such, we will put more emphasis on the balance between profitability and sales, and for this reason, we expect these sales to go down as well. And that's kind of the big kicker right there. So right now it seems like Sony Stock's in trouble. It looks like they need to get something new worked on and it seems like the long-term projections are not looking as good as we'd expect. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. Give me your thoughts and comments down below. We have the Twitter, Twitch stream as well, and the Webull affiliate stuff. And make sure you guys have a very happy Valentine's Day too as well.